Senator Onestad notices the absence of a quorum. Will the Sergeant-at-Arms lock the doors and call the absent members, please? Has been duly noted. The Sergeant-at-Arms has locked the doors and has called absent members. We anticipate the arrival of a quorum shortly and encourage all members to come to the Senate floor immediately. Could we ask that the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Rabbi Mona Alfi, after which please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Jeff Denham. Rabbi?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This coming Sunday, the Jewish community around the world will observe a day of mourning known as Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day. There are many horrific stories from the Holocaust, atrocities and unthinkable acts of inhumanity. But there are also other stories of courage and kindness, moral strength, and noble acts in the face of evil. One of these stories belongs to a woman who died this past January. Her name was Miep Gies, a woman best known for being one of the guardian angels who hid Anne Frank and the others who hid in the secret annex. An extraordinary thing about Miep Gies was how ordinary she was. She was not a politician or a soldier. She did not hold a position of prominence or power. She was just an ordinary person whose sense of morality, of justice, of compassion, and humanity gave her the courage to act in a way that makes the rest of us marvel and ask, could I do what she did? If I saw my fellow human beings suffering and in peril, would I risk my life for theirs? These are questions that can only be answered when the moment arises. One of the lessons of the Holocaust is that even in dark times, there are those amongst us whose moral character shines as brightly as the stars in the heavens, whose bravery inspires us to act in a way that elevates us all, in a way that reminds us that within each human being dwells a spark of the divine. May the Holy One give us the courage to recognize and honor that spark of holiness that dwells inside each human being, so that we might be better at doing God's work of bringing goodness, peace, and compassion into the world. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Privileges of the floor. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Under motions, resolutions, and notices, without objection, the following resolutions will be withdrawn from committee and placed on today's special consent calendar, members. SCR 70, SCR 79, and SCR 87. Pursuant to Senate Rule 2910, the following bills are referred to the Rules Committee. This is file item number 10, AB 70. So ordered. AB 7. Forgive thee. All right. Introductions and first readings of bills. Senator Cox, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Mr. President, we have a resolution to present to a organization in Sacramento that's
under privileges of the floor. Senator Cox will be recognized at Senator Steinberg's desk.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I can ask Senator Walk to come over, as well as Senator Steinberg. Let me just say to you, members, today Senator Steinberg and Senator Walk and I are recognizing...
Senator Cox, one moment, please.
We are recognizing, Mr. President, Raley's for their 75th anniversary. We're joined this morning by Michael Teal, who's the president and CEO and grandson of the founder, Tom Raley. And Michael has also brought his wife, Julie, as well as his daughter, Jennifer, who happens to be, by the way, the marketing, managing the Raley's marketing department, as well as Ron Fong, who is the president and CEO of the California Grocers Association, is also with us. Members, Tom Raley started this company, opened his first market in Placerville, and Raley's has been expanding ever since. They now have 133 stores throughout California and Nevada, and they employ over 13,000 people. And members, 13,000 people is a lot of jobs. Raley's is still family-owned. They're often recognized as one of Sacramento's most generous corporate philanthropists, regularly giving back to local charities and community groups. And members, they have just recently given $150,000 to the American Red Cross for the Haiti earthquake relief. To help celebrate Michael through these special 75th anniversary, he in fact did bring some cupcakes with him. You can find those in the lounge. But at any rate, we're delighted that they're here this morning, and ask Senator Steinberg as well as Senator Walk to join me in making this presentation. Oh, good. Thank you. All right. Where's here? Take this. Let me stand over here next to you.
Senator Cox and Senator Steinberg, I know the members of the Senate join me in welcoming and honoring your special guest today. Members of the Senate. Members, do we have any other items under privileges of the floor? Motions and resolutions? If not, that will take us to consideration of the daily file. We have the second reading file. Items 1 through 10. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 1203, 1254, 902, 1458, 1107, 1241, 1061, Assembly Bill 1518, and Assembly Bill 1451.
On second Senate third reading, members, we have file items 20 through 41. Members, we are awaiting work from the Assembly. We are at Senate third reading. This is an opportunity for members to move items that are on Senate third reading. We will work our way through Senate third reading, and we will begin by asking, do we have anyone under file item 20? Senator Flores? Pass. File item 21. Senator Yee? Let me confirm with the Secretary of Senate this eligible is item today, and ask the Secretary to please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 63 by Senator Yee, relative to secondhand goods.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This resolution simply urges the Department of Justice to ensure compliance with the requirement that the Department develop a standard format to be used statewide for the purpose of reporting second-hand dealers' transaction. This is good public policy, but most importantly, it is going to help determine whether or not many of the transactions are for legitimate items, and with that, urge an aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested, Alquist, Ashburn, Calderon. I. Cedillo. I. Cogdill. Corbett. I. Correa. I. Cox. Denham. I. DeSaulnier. I. Ducheney. I. Dutton. I. Flores. I. Hancock. Harmon. Hollingsworth. I. Huff. I. Kehoe. I. Leno. I. Liu. I. Lowenthal. I. Maldonado. Negrete McLeod. I. Oropesa. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Romero. I. Runner. I. Semidian.
Aye.
I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Walters. I. Wiggins. Wolk. I. Wright. Wyland. I. Yee. Yee, aye. Oropesa, aye.
Call the absent members.
Onnested. Aye. Alquist. Ashburn. Cogdill. Cox. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Maldonado. Wiggins. Wright. Wright, aye. Mr. President, ayes 33, no 0. Ashburn, aye.
Call the absent members.
Alquist. Cogdill. Harmon. Maldonado. Wiggins.
Ayes 34, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, before we move to file item 22, I want to take a minute to recognize former State Senator John Vasconcellos at the rear of the chambers. Please join me in welcoming former State Senator John Vasconcellos. File item 22, Senator Leno. File item 23, Senator Corbett. Pass. Okay. File item 24, Senator Wolk. File item 25, Senator Wolk. Pass. File item 26, pass. Senator Wolk. Thank you. File item 27, Senator Steinberg. Senator Steinberg, do you wish to present file item 27 relative to Autism Awareness Month?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. This resolution...
Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 91 by Senator Steinberg relative to Autism Awareness Month.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. This resolution calls for the month of April to be proclaimed as Autism Awareness Month. And this is an opportunity for us to not only educate ourselves, but continue down the path of action to both find the cures for autism and autism spectrum disorders, and to provide more effective care and treatment for those living with the disorder. As you know, autism now affects 1 in every 100 children. California is adding 13 children a day, 7 days a week, with full syndrome autism to the DDS system. The Senate is hard at work through a bipartisan select committee on autism and related disorders. We will hold a hearing next week, April the 13th, to listen to the work of 12 regional task forces which have been hard at work looking at how, even in these difficult economic times, we can continue to push forward to make sure that autism and autism spectrum disorders get the attention that the children and the families deserve. Urge and I vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to add my voice in support of this resolution. And also, I think we all owe the pro tem a bit of thanks for suggesting that each of us in our own regions establish our own task forces. And I know that we're doing this on both sides of the aisle. We've got about 50 different participants in our own San Francisco Marin Autism Regional Task Force in our area. And this is made up of parents and other family members, grandparents, aunts and uncles, educators, service providers, all of those who have been engaged in this field as the phenomenon of the autism and spectrum disorder continues to grow at a significant rate. I think when I first arrived here in Sacramento just a few years ago, the figure we used was about 1 in 150 children would experience this horrible disease. Now we hear 1 in 100, and in fact it's more prevalent in boys, 1 in 51. So we don't yet understand what causes this, disrupts families in significant ways, can be very expensive, of course, as well. We're trying to deal with all the many aspects of it. That's what these task forces are dealing with, to be support to families, to be support to these young children, to get in early intervention so that there is the hope that every aspect and fulfillment of their lives can be attained. So I just want to join in support of this resolution and ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Senator Wolk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm rising in support of this resolution. I am convening the North Bay Autism Regional Task Force, Solano and Napa counties, and want to thank the Pro Tem for bringing this forward. During the past 6 months, parents, community members have been working very hard, despite the difficult economic times, to come up with some very practical suggestions that we might put into effect and would ease the dramatic crisis that we're all facing with respect to autism. And I want to express my deep appreciation to them. There are an extraordinary number of people, parents, community members, who have been working very hard over several months to come up with these ideas. So I urge support for this resolution. Thank you.
Senator Correa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to add my support to this resolution, and I also want to thank the State's Post Commission for coming up with an excellent training program for first responders or officers that come to scenes where there are autistic individuals on how to identify this disease and how to address individuals with autism as they come into contact with them. Again, I ask for an aye vote in this most important measure.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Pavlik.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm proud to be a member of the Senate Select Committee on Autism, and as a parent with a son who has autism, I know this issue all too well. What I wanted to bring up is just two areas of concern that I have. One is federal funding for full inclusion in the classroom of developmentally and physically disabled children is far less than promised. 40% of the funding for our state is supposed to come from the federal government to make sure that these children have fair and equal access to a quality education. We are now getting about 15% of the funding. So I think that's something we should work on collaboratively in the years ahead. The other issue I wanted to bring to your attention is we're focusing with better identification of early diagnosis of children with autism so that early intervention measures can make a difference in their lives. I wanted to bring to you my real concern about children that are out of the school system. They're young adults now in their 20s and 30s, and the importance of providing meaningful work experience as we're cutting regional center programs that are providing job training to these young adults, and also the growing need there's going to be for independent living skills and places for people to live independently from their parents, because I'll tell you, as a parent, one of the things that keep parents of autistic kids awake at night is knowing you're not going to outlive your children. So the state has a role to play in this this new phenomena that wasn't around 30 years ago. But Senate Pro Tem Steinberg is exactly right. About 1 out of every 110 children now are diagnosed with autism. I urge your support for this resolution.
Is there further debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? Senator Cedillo.
I just want to add my voice to the call for support. As California diversifies, as changing demographics become part of our complexion, so do the adverse impacts of diseases like autism. And they have a particular challenge to those in underserved and under-resourced communities. It's important for us to do all that we can to address this. My office has had this impact, and we will work with others, colleagues on the floor, leaders in our community, and particularly in my district, we acknowledge the support that we get from the Mexican Consulate, their offices, their infrastructure, from the Latino media, from the Spanish-speaking media, to address this concern for the Latino, Spanish-speaking, and immigrant communities of California. I ask for your support on this measure as well.
Further debate or discussion, members? All debate having ceased. Members, is there any objection to substituting the unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none. Ayes 34, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, that will take us to file item 28.
Senator Runner, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 944 by Senator Runner, an act relating to Ronald Reagan Day.
Thank you, Madam President. SB 944 would make February 6th Ronald Reagan Day in California. This day would not be a state holiday, nor would it give any workers a day off. It would add no cost to taxpayers. Instead, Reagan Day would be called a special day of significance, just like other days that we have, including one for John Muir, California teachers, and the California Poppy and others. The goal is to celebrate the life of President Ronald Reagan throughout the California schools each February 6th. The first Ronald Reagan Day will fall on his 100th birthday. SB 944 does not add any type of mandate on school districts. What it does is honor the legacy of Ronald Reagan, who served with distinction as our 33rd governor of California and the 40th president of the United States. I'd ask for your aye vote.
Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise as a joint author of this measure. Not only is Ronald Reagan our 33rd governor, he's our 40th president, but more importantly than that, he's inspired many people to be involved in government service, me being one of them. And the reason why I got involved was I actually had the opportunity in 4th grade to be Ronald Reagan and give a speech in my classroom at Simi Elementary School. And he won the classroom vote, and I thought that was pretty neat. And that was really what fostered my involvement in getting involved in public service. And we have a lot to be grateful for the former president. I grew up in a time where every child was fearful of nuclear war, and peace through strength with Ronald Reagan's leadership, him being willing to go in front of that Brandenburg Gate in Germany. I'm of German descent, and bringing down that wall and spreading freedom throughout the world. This gentleman deserves our recognition. The former president deserves our honor, and I'm just very grateful that God has blessed this country and this state with a gentleman like Ronald Reagan to inspire many to be involved in government service.
Is there any other discussion or debate? Is there any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 34, noes 0. The bill is approved. Members, under motions and resolutions, let me just acknowledge Mr. Ryan Brooks, who's a member of the Little Hoover Commission and the Senate International Relations Foundation Board. He's visiting the Capitol today along with his wife, Christy, their 2 young sons on the son's first visit to the California State Capitol. Let's please welcome the Brooks family to the State Capitol today. Senator Simitian, which item would you care to take up at this time?
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I have 3 items. The first is file item 33, SJR 18.
Secretary, please read.
Senate Joint Resolution 18 by Senator Simitian relative to marine aquaculture.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, Some of you may recall that in 2006, California adopted comprehensive aquaculture standards for the coast of California to regulate the growing industry of fish farming. The standards have been widely recognized, praised around the nation. There is a national debate now. This measure, SJR 18, simply requests the U.S. Congress to develop a comprehensive federal regulatory framework for marine aquaculture that is as protective as our own California Sustainable Oceans Act. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Ashburn? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero? Aye. Runner? Smidian? Runner no. Smidian aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Walters? No. Wiggins? Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Yes.
Call the absent
Hancock,
members.
Alquist? Cogdill? Harmon? Maldonado? Strickland? Strickland no. Wiggins? Madam President?
Ayes 23, noes 11. The bill is passed. Next item, Senator Simidian, is it 35?
Yes, Madam President.
Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 928 by Senator Smidian, an act relating to consumer product safety.
Members, you will recall that in an effort to avoid product-by-product bans, we have taken a more comprehensive approach to green chemistry issues in cooperation both with our colleagues in the Assembly and with the Schwarzenegger administration. We are making good progress. This bill is part of that ongoing effort. It is a consumer disclosure bill. It continues to be a work in progress. I want to thank folks at both the Consumer Specialty Products Association and the Soap and Detergent Association who are working with us and other stakeholders to find common ground. I have committed to them that there will be amendments to the bill in the Assembly and that the bill will come back to the Senate, and I reaffirm that commitment today. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? Alquist? Ashburn? Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? Corbett? Aye. Correa? No. Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? Smidian?
Aye.
Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Wolk? Aye. Wright? Wyland? No. Yee? Yee aye.
Call the absent members.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Ashburn? No. Cogdill? Ducheney? Harmon? Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Padilla? Aye. Runner? No. Wiggins? Wright? Wright aye.
Call the absent members.
Alquist? Cogdill? Ducheney? Harmon? Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Wiggins. Duchesne, aye.
Ayes 21, noes 12. The bill is passed. File item 41. Secretary, please read.
Senate Joint Resolution 26 by Senator Simitian relative to the Armenian genocide.
Thank you, Madam President and members. This is the moment when I rise in concert with my colleague, Senator Liu, to ask that we once again recognize and commemorate the Armenian genocide of 1915 to 1923. We had extensive debate on this issue in the Rules Committee just yesterday. While in some ways it was a difficult conversation, I thought it was an important conversation. We take this opportunity each year to call on both the U.S. Congress and President of the United States, as well as others around the world, including the Republic of Turkey, to acknowledge the historical fact of the genocide. We do that because until and unless we can acknowledge and come to grips with the history, it is difficult indeed to move on. And until and unless we can acknowledge and come to grips with that difficult history, it seems even more likely that that history will be repeated. That is the basis for this resolution, which this body has been kind enough to support during each and every year of my tenure in the Senate and the Assembly. And I would once again ask for an aye vote on SJR 26.
Senator Liu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I too rise in support of SJR 26. I'm honored to be the joint author of this important measure. We must honor the genocide victims, and we cannot forget the ravages of fear and terror. The 21st Senate District, which I represent, includes the largest population of Armenian Americans outside of Armenia, and we should recognize their significant contributions of this group to California's civic life, government, business, educational institutions, the arts, and other areas, and I do encourage your aye vote.
Senator Weiland.
Madam President, members, I too rise in support of this measure. The Armenian genocide was the first genocide of the 20th century, and we should remember, as we pay a great deal of attention to what was perhaps the worst genocide in history, the Holocaust, that is not isolated. Unfortunately, we've seen them in more recent years, but that genocide was the first one. It's extremely important not only that we recognize it, but that we include it in curriculum so that students understand this horrible phenomenon and they understand what the United States can do to prevent it. Along those same lines, I think it's very important, since we have survivors of not necessarily of that genocide because it was so long ago, but those who heard stories from their families. And we need that actual history, the descriptions of what happened. Many people heard it. They heard it from their grandparents. We need it transcribed. We need it as part of our curriculum. That is the way I strongly believe that this memory will continue. So I rise in strong support of this resolution, and I think we need to take it to the next step, which is to make sure it's part of our curriculum.
Senator Cedillo.
I commend my colleague, Mr. Simitian, for his ever-vigilance and his compassion. If you read the resolution, you see the resolution speaks of an incident, a historical incident for which we should all be aware of and acknowledge. It is not any effort to defame or to accuse any community of any wrongdoing, but it's an effort to find acknowledgement and recognition in this historical wrong. And as he stated, it's important to do that every year, because until we reach that acknowledgement, we can't move on. And when we don't reach that acknowledgement, we're always in the danger of repeating history. Those who don't remember history are condemned to repeat it, it's been said. And I say that because each year that I've been here, as this resolution has been brought forth, I acknowledge and recognize that there are people dying at the border of our country. And I remember when I first stood up, it was over 1,000 people. And I raised that as a concern. And today I stand here to tell you that 10,000 people have died at our border. And they've died because of government policy. Our policy on immigration, or our lack of policy on immigration. Because of our enforcement policies that drive and push people into the desert, when we know, in fact, this will be the result. Now, with all due respect, I do not attempt to compare the death of 10,000 people to 1 million people. But you can't get to 1 million without going through 10,000. And so we must acknowledge this. And I think that is the lesson that we should learn. That if we don't remember our history, that we're destined to repeat it. In this great country, this unique country, this only country of the world made of immigrants, we should not have 10,000 people dying at our border. We should not have people stopped randomly and have their property taken from them. We should not be campaigning for the highest office of this state and attempting to vilify an entire community. And so it's for that reason that I thank Senator Simitian for making us aware and giving us a historical context to look at ourselves today in a commitment to passion and justice and dignity and respect for all humanity. I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Simitian, you may close.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, thank you for your comments, members. We will have an opportunity to have a formal commemoration ceremony here on the floor sometime in the next couple of weeks, Madam President, so I will hold off on any further comments. I will simply ask for an aye vote, and if we are fortunate enough to get an aye vote, I would appreciate immediate transmittal. Thank you very much.
Is there any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 34, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Desk, please note, immediate transmittal to the Assembly. Senator Hollingsworth, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
To call a Republican caucus, please.
Republican caucus. Senator Hollingsworth, can you give us a time estimate?
Madam President.
Senator Steinberg.
Let's call a short Democratic caucus as well.
Democratic caucus at the same time.